Okay, so welcome to our financial literacy introductory session. So what we hope to do today is just share with everyone the financial literacy programming that we have received some training on and that we will be offering in the future, very near future. In fact, we have a series starting, I believe it's next week, same time as this. And I'm Kylie Hand. I work for the Brain Injury Association of North Bay area, and my role is a virtual supports coordinator. So I provide activities like this and support individuals to gain access to a virtual world and education opportunities, as well as things that help add to their day and connect them to their community of individuals who may have a lived experience of brain injury. And my coworker Maddie is here as well. Maddie also works with BIANBA, and she is performing financial awareness coordination supports in our community, as well as some other activities for our general participants who access BIANBA services.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, okay. So let's move into our content. So Maddie, start off here.
Okay, so the BIANBA Aware program is run through the Brain Injury Association, and it provides education and resources for the prevention of financial abuse in vulnerable populations. So this is just kind of a program where we run different Zoom programs, and we talk about different financial abuse situations, and we talk about different ways to combat that. We have started a new program, and it's called the Financial Literacy Program. So, using the financial literacy toolkit and training provided by Prosper Canada, which we will show you all the modules and the training that we took part in, and now that we're going to be using their resources. So, the training provided by Prosper Canada, we will explore various topics to address financial literacy, goals, and needs of individuals living with cognitive impairments. So we do see that there are populations of low-income people, and sometimes it's hard to have the supports and resources to learn how to budget. And so yeah, we will just be covering different topics each week. So they will include exploring our relationship with money. That's the first one. The second one, we will be exploring income and taxes. The third one is budgeting. Fourth one is banking. Fifth is savings, then credit basics, and there's a couple more too. So there's a 6 weeks of sessions beginning April 20th with a max of 10 participants per session. So each week we just will be covering a different topic. So yeah. It's not really clicking. Oh, there we go. So why are we here? So we know that money plays a huge role in our lives and the world we live in. We know it can be hard to talk about money. There's a stigma about talking about your financial needs and your budgeting and everything like that. Financial vulnerability is on the rise in Canada. It is often the primary backdrop or reason why people seek social services. So definitely in our community, we do see the need for financial literacy, especially with people who are seeking the social services. Living in poverty means less money, but it also may mean exclusion from financial systems. So people just may not even know what resources are available to them. And financial literacy paired with other social services is an important tool for alleviating poverty. What is financial literacy? So financial literacy is an essential life skill in our modern society. It helps with things such as managing our money, understanding how the systems work, so learning about all the different banking tools and everything like that, determining the financial products and services that are most useful for our situation. So just knowing like where to go and where to get resources and how to ask questions. Determining the financial products and services that are most useful for our situation, and setting and achieving financial goals. So there are many definitions and models for the financial literacy that we will learn about. The Task Force on Financial Literacy defines financial literacy as having the knowledge, skills, and competence to make responsible financial decisions. So knowledge is understanding personal and broader financial matters. Skills is having the ability to apply that knowledge in everyday life. So putting it in real life situations. Confidence, so feeling self-assured enough to make important decisions and definitely having the support to do so, just knowing enough about budgeting and financial literacy to be able to make the decisions. And responsible financial decisions. So people will be able to use the knowledge, skills, and confidence they have gained to make choices that are appropriate to their own circumstances. And financial vulnerability. So the definition for financial vulnerability, it occurs when individuals or households have low, no, or negative net worth. So that's a total of savings and assets minus your debt, and consequently are at high risk of going under financially in the event of an interruption in their income, unforeseen increases in their expenses, or a cutback of their credit. So this happens when we see, like, if you have car repairs or house repairs that you don't know are going to happen, right? So those are some unforeseen circumstances. So low income Canadians are the most vulnerable of all, as many have no financial assets to fall back on in the face of job loss, interruptions, or other unforeseen expenses. Many are also burdened by debt and are finding it difficult to cope. For the purpose of the course, we do say low income Canadians when we are talking about the vulnerable population, okay? So financial vulnerability. Low income Canadians are not necessarily less financially literate than other people, but they do face challenges in accessing accurate and appropriate information that's well suited to their life context and their financial needs. Mainstream financial information, tools, and advice, while useful for middle or higher income Canadians, are often less so for the low income Canadians and can even be detrimental. Expertise from financial institutions and professionals may be inadequate when applied to low income people. And financial fitness. So being financially literate has similarities to being healthy or financially fit. So the financial fitness, it does not happen overnight. It requires setting realistic financial goals. You have to learn about the different topics surrounding financial literacy, just so that you can have more knowledge, so you can make informed decisions. Practicing financial fitness, getting help when you need it, just like a personal trainer, and adapting your plan based on your life circumstances. So people who practice financial fitness know how to make decisions that help them plan for their future and definitely enjoy their life. And this, they are also able to manage financial surprises because they've trained for situations by saving and planning.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. So why did the Brain Injury Association of North Bay decide to work together with Prosper Canada? So one of the reasons we decided to do this to help educate individuals on the needs of financial literacy was because sometimes the symptoms of an acquired brain injury will impact the financial literacy and empowerment capacity or skill of those who may be living with a brain injury. So let's just understand a little bit how that might be relevant here. So understanding brain injury is important, but it's also important to think of the entire individual and their broader needs around financial literacy. So some of the factors that may be impacting an individual with a lived experience of brain injury, but not exclusive to people with a brain injury. It may also include low-income Canadians. Is like their current housing situation. So, you know, are they renting or do they own? And how are they managing that? Their access and ability to have community engagements, things that are that add value to their day or provide supports in areas that they need it. Again, also their support circle. So sometimes individuals have a very narrow support circle. They may not have family, they may not have individuals who are even paid supports involved in their life, and therefore they may be at further risk. High risk relationships, so individuals who may not be in a very positive relationship or may have sought out relationships in an online world where the security or the confidence that that relationship is really as positive as it appears may be a challenge. Access to financial resources, as Maddie mentioned, some of the resources available to the general public are not necessarily geared towards those who are working with a lower income. And again, income level is a factor. Financial literacy is in place to help the individual understand how to complete their banking, how to create and follow a budget, making informed purchases. So if somebody has some challenges with their financial literacy, this may be something that they may struggle with. Again, low-income Canadians, as well as persons with a brain injury, may have experienced a traumatic event. They may have lost a spouse or partner. They may have had changes to the level of support because of that. It may not be related to how they received their brain injury, but it does impact who they may have in their life to support them. So how does a brain injury potentially, the symptoms of a brain injury potentially impact somebody's financial literacy and decision making? So we know brain injured individuals may have short-term memory loss, so that may be an impact in how they can execute their financial goals and decisions. They may have difficulty with creating a plan and follow through of that plan around financial needs. Organization skills could be impacted. They may miss appointments with their financial advisor. They may lose paperwork or be unable to understand some of the content of financial correspondence they may receive. They may not understand what it's trying to tell them. They may struggle with judgment and understanding the consequences of their decisions around finances. Problem-solving skills can be maybe a symptom that they now experience with their brain injury. So difficulty prioritizing or identifying a solution, and again, being able to follow through. And sometimes the emotional impact of having a brain injury can impact a person's decision making. So they may be more likely to have impulse control challenges or be unable to plan for the future or determine their behavior and the potential consequences in the future. Again, we may also see a concurrent disorder. So that's somebody who may have a lived experience with brain injury, but they may also have another disorder that's associated with that or have been in place before that. Anxiety and depression can impact somebody's cognitive impairment. Anxiety increases stress, and depression can impact decision making. So these are things that are really quite common, as well as impactful on your financial decision making. And being able to remember or retain the information and then use it in the future is impacted here as well. And then we also would consider a person's pre and post brain injury literacy level. Literacy is financial literacy and other forms of knowledge base are lived experiences. So somebody may not have had access to that if they were from a low income socioeconomic status and they didn't maybe go on to higher levels of school, or they left school early to work and support family. So there's lots of reasons why somebody may not have gained that before brain injury, and even if they did, their brain injury may now impact their ability around those factors. So in general, not just not exclusive to people with brain injury, individuals sometimes have a distrust of financial institutions. Individuals in lower income families and throughout Canada and Ontario may live paycheck to paycheck due to low wages, and they may not have extra funds to save to use towards financial security and fitness, as Maddie spoke about. Other factors in the general population would be addiction, so drug and alcohol, gambling addictions. All of these could be something that is quite interfering with achieving your financial goals, and especially if they're around saving or becoming more fit in that way. English as a second language or low literacy skills, so that might be reading and writing skills or number skills as well. is a common factor when it comes to people being able to have use financial literacy in their life. Some people have difficulty prioritizing their wants versus their needs, or have conflicting priorities. So this was an exercise in our training that I found interesting, because I identified for myself prioritizing my wants versus needs could use some work. We'll talk a little bit about some of that later. Low motivation can change behavior and improve. Low motivation to change behavior and improve your money management skills might be a factor. Homelessness, again, so having no fixed address could be impacting a person's ability to bank or secure other areas of financial gains or savings. And it can be difficult to think beyond day to day if you're living in a survival mode where you're homeless and or not accessing services or having a security day to day of where you're laying your head at night. They may lack access to appropriate resources or be misinformed as to what is an appropriate resources. They may not be accessing the most beneficial opportunities around that. And they may lack education, and therefore understanding the terminology could be difficult. It also could be related to a brain injury, their understanding of terminology. Individuals who may be experiencing a communication change in their communication skills, their ability to understand or the ability to express themselves due to a brain injury could be a factor. So let's just talk about there's 9 sessions that we have learned about through our training and that we would share with our members who join our group. So they are exploring our relationship with money, income and tax, budgeting, banking, savings, credit basics, credit reporting, debt, and consumerism. So Maddie covered a couple of these, and there's a few more that I've just added. These are the topics that we would explore with our group. Okay, so I'll just cover a little bit about what Module 1 is. So Module 1 takes us through exploring our relationship with money. So here's a money message that you may identify with, and it's one of the things that they shared with us. So this is a quote from Suze Orman. Our feelings about money today almost always can be traced back to an incident from our past or our first experience or message about money. And this could be quite true for individuals. If you come from a lifestyle that was, funds were not challenging to come by, you may not have really learned how to budget and save. So you may come from a good background with less financial strain from your family of origin, but you may now not really have the experience to manage money very well. Also, you could come from an area where money was always a challenge, but also weren't afforded the opportunity to learn how to save because that was maybe never a goal that could ever be reached in your family of origin. You may or in your past experiences. So these things can reflect and impact us today when we think about money and our relationship with financial literacy. So one of the activities that we visit often throughout the different topics is creating SMART goals. So a SMART goal has 5 factors. The first being specific, then we have measurable, we look at attainable goals, something that's relevant to your goal of that you're targeting, and something that is time bound. So if we're thinking about our relationship with money, we may want to set a SMART goal for things you want to learn more about or things you want to accomplish. So let's just go through an example of an accomplishment goal, a SMART accomplishment goal. So in this case, the individual's specific goal is to take their children out for a nice dinner. The measurable factor is they need to save $75 to take their kids out for dinner. The attainable goal, how am I going to make this attainable? Well, this person decided I will make my coffee using my coffee maker at home instead of going to Tim Hortons to gain some savings. This is relevant because for this individual, taking their kids to dinner might be a nice way to spend time with them and show them some care and maybe even give them an experience they might not otherwise have on a regular basis, something special. makes it quite relevant for, that's motivating for the individual. And it's time bound. So this person has decided they'll accomplish their goal in 8 weeks, that's the time frame, by setting aside $10 per week. So this is an example of creating a SMART goal, financial goal for something that they want to attain, something they want to do differently. And I'll hand over to Maddie for module 2.
Okay, thanks, Kaya. So module number 2 that we will be focusing on in the training is called income and taxes. So some of the things that we will be focusing on are talking about creating income, reading a pay stub, which I know that we have an example coming up of a pay stub, so but we'll go more into depth about pay stubs and all the lines on the pay stub. There's an introduction to income tax. We're going to go over how to file your taxes and just some goal setting. And just like Kylie talked about, it is going to be the SMART goals. And yeah, we'll just use those for our real life reason. So here is the example of the pay stub. So this is the statement of earnings for David Jones. So there's the employee number, there's earnings, hours, rates. So the statement of earnings and the summary, but we are going to go over all of this in the training and just kind of talk about like EI or CPP, total income tax, things that may affect the pay stub and may change things for taxes. So taxable and non-taxable income. So there's two different types of income that we see. So taxable income is most of the income. So government taxes an individual on their gross income minus any deductions, exemptions, or any other adjustments that are allowed in that tax year. So one example of this is employment income. And then non-taxable income is money that you earn that is not taxed by the government. So anything like Ontario Works or ODSP, which is social assistance, are some of the things that are not going to be taxable income. Sorry about that.
I'm going to talk about budgeting. So in this module, just to make sure that people are aware, we're just doing an overview for the most part. So in our budgeting model, we will share an overview of budgeting and descriptions and ideas around that so we understand it very well. Barriers to budgeting are explored, and we talk about how budgeting can help an individual with their financial fitness and through financial literacy, how they may attain some of those goals. There's a lot of scenario budgeting exercises, which is kind of a great way to learn. So that's very visceral. It's very geared towards adult learning, which is fantastic because the people are better able to take away some understanding of budgeting and maybe not have to use their own examples to learn, but use some made up examples. We explore the steps to budgeting. We identify ways of prioritizing and cutting expenses and provide some tips and tricks to doing so. And again, goal setting is another content specific activity that we do for most modules. So did you know, here's just the Canadian reality. So 1 in 4 Canadians say they don't budget their money at all. 2 in 10 Canadians budget for big time items only, such as vacations, events, or gifts. So they know that's coming up and they begin to prepare for it, but they don't do so just as a preventative measure for emergencies. And 1 in 10 Canadians say that only 1 in 10 Canadians say that they do budget for those big time emergencies, like, medical expenses, loss of employment, home repairs, things like that, something that's unexpected. They didn't plan for that. 47% say they would be in a very precarious financial situation if their paycheck was to be even 1 week late. Never mind if it was going to be cut off and they were no longer going to receive a paycheck. Just 1 week late would put them in a very serious financial situation. So what are the barriers to budgeting that people regularly experience? we talk about what barriers to budgeting people experience, and then typically we would ask, in this module, what do you experience? So this is a way of generating ideas and motivation for setting goals, and through the exercises I talked about us doing, we may individuals come away from that module with some ideas and some tips and some opportunities to start working on their financial fitness. And that last slide is a bit of an example of how we will do some reflection. So reflection is an area that we focus on as well within the training modules. So I'll hand it over to Maddie.
Perfect. Thanks, Karia. So module number 4 that we will focus on is going to be about banking. So some of the things that we'll focus on is different banks and credit unions and kind of the difference between them. I know that I didn't really know the difference between a bank and a credit union until I started learning more about financial literacy. So yeah, also accounts and services. So just kind of the difference between like a checking and a savings account and choosing a bank account. So just looking at kind of the right type of account for you, depending on your situation. We will also look at alternative financial sectors and then the goal setting and resources. So the term underbanked, it is estimated that as many as 3 or 15% of Canadians are underbanked. For a number of reasons, more and more Canadians may find themselves relying on the growing number of alternative or fringe financial services to access credit and do basic banking transactions. So there are several reasons why a significant segment of the population is unbanked or underbanked. So may lack appropriate identification. It is very hard to get new ID, especially right now when you do lose your ID. So there is always that possibility of lacking the appropriate identification to be able to open a bank account. You may not have a financial institution in your community. So some people don't have access to like transportation or ways to get to a financial institution and don't also have a phone or technology to complete that. Do not have either a checking or a savings account, or having an account at a financial institution that use payday lenders or check cashing services. So this would be like any of those places where they charge really high interest and they give you an advanced payday, but you have to pay it back with a lot of interest. So people may get into the cycle of the payday loans, and then it just becomes hard to get out of that and stay with your account at your financial institution.
Okay, so in module 5, we discuss savings. So one of the exercises that we do is called the $10 million exercise, and I'll show you that in just a second. But in module 5, we also cover why people should save. So just educating individuals and helping them understand why save, because some people don't really see the relevance, but we explore that a little bit. We have some activities that are helpful in helping learners to understand better needs versus wants in their prioritizing of their financial abilities, like what their finances are being applied towards. And we also do some finding money activities. So these are ways to just think outside of the box or maybe change habits towards savings, and give people ideas or entertain just some exploration about how they might save money in a different way. We talk about paying yourself first. There's some interesting learning around what does that really mean. We educate and explore compound interest. So how do you maximize savings that you may be trying to work with, and savings and investing tools. We talk about those. And again, we do goal setting and we provide resources both within this community we will be able to do, as well as just some general resources provided by the government or within our within the financial literacy and financial tools world. So let's do the little $10 million exercise. I won't ask people to speak it out loud, but just think about what would you do if you were to win $10 million. So you just found out you won $10 million. Think of the 3 things you would do with that money the day you cash the check. So maybe pay off your home, buy a home, pay off all of your family's homes, pay off all of your debt, donate money. Maybe you would be very, generous with your money to help others who aren't as fortunate. So just thinking of those, that's the first step. So now let's change it. You actually only got $25,000. So now what are you going to do with $25,000? That's significantly less money than, what was it, 10 million? Quite a bit less money. So what would you do if you only had 25,000 to work with? It's not quite as much. Maybe you're only going to pay off your own debt in your own home, or put a large down payment on a home and try to, work with some financial fitness for yourself. So what if you only had $1,000? You only won $1,000. That's a lot less money to work with. How are you going to spend that $1,000 to work on your own financial situation? Because you're likely not going to give it to somebody else. You probably need it for yourself. So this exercise is a great way to explore what is a need and what is a want. A need is something essential for living. A want is something that makes life more enjoyable, but we can live without it. So when you're thinking about that $10 million, you probably thought a lot about different wants. The sky was the limit. You could do anything you wanted with that money. But when we get down to $1,000 or winnings, now you might be thinking only about what you really need to address in your financial profile. So that's a great way to think about what's a want and what's a need, is by, if the sky's the limit, what do I want? If I only have a finite amount of money to work with, what do I need to do with that money to improve my situation? And are you going to identify appropriate needs, or are you saying it's free money, it's new money that I wasn't counting on, so I'm just going to go and buy pizza for everybody at work, and we're going to open a tab at the bar and we're going to have a great night, or I'm going to just go out and buy a whole new wardrobe. Like, are you going to use that money, even as finite as it is, for a need or a want? So it really helps people think about that.
Okay, so module 6 that we'll be covering is going to be credit basics. So we're going to talk about credit, the good type of credit, bad type of credit, credit cards, and how much interest credit cards cost, how much did it really cost for the interest for the credit card, some credit tips, and then some goal setting and resources. So types of credit. What are some common types of credit? So some of the different types of credit are credit cards, department store credit cards, payday loans, consumer loans, which are the ones that you buy now and pay later, student loans, mortgage, overdraft, and line of credit. And we notice that there are all different types of interest rates and payback for each different type of credit. So it's definitely good to learn which types of credit are the better deals, right? And then credit reporting. So module 7 that we will go over is going to be credit reporting. So we're going to talk about the credit bureau, credit reports, your credit score, so how you can access your credit report and getting your credit score, common errors and how to resolve them, and some basic goal setting. So these are just some different types of things that we will be going over again. So the credit bureau, a credit report, your credit rating, and your credit score. And we'll talk about it. We learn about the different things that credit scores are used for, and different ways to figure that out.
So we also talk all about debt. This section is really about the individual, and it helps people start to discuss or think about their own financial fitness and their own situation. So obviously, when we talk about debt, there's good, bad, and ugly forms of debt. So an example of good debt would be maybe having a mortgage, so you have a home to live in. This is a good thing. Bad debt might be a credit card that has a high rating. An ugly debt would be something like having access to payday loan where the payback structure is very, very taxing. You're really paying them more than they ever paid you. And the scenario, because you signed a contract, you may have signed a contract that really has negative repercussions for you if you're not able to follow through with the agreement that you made, which is typically a very short turnaround and quite unforgiving. So that would be an ugly version form of debt. So we also explore how much is too much debt. So there is actually a healthy balance between having debt and not having debt. It can benefit you in some ways, and it can also really be detrimental. So we explore that. We talk about the do's and don'ts of debt, and we provide debt strategies for the individual. We talk about debt repayment options, how to approach your creditors around some of your debt to maybe make it less bad, more good, less ugly, more towards maybe it might be bad debt, but it's not ugly debt. So we talk about those types of activities. We talk about the collection rules, so helping individuals understand how their credit could be collected and from the loan places, and so that people understand what the rules are. It also explains people's rights when it comes to credit and creditors maybe calling you too often. Most people don't know that they can actually only call you 3 times a week. I didn't realize this. This was a right as a person owning having credit. I assume that that's 3 calls where you actually picked up. So you more than that, but you're not answering, you may not have much to stand on there. But there is limits on what they can do before it's considered overkill and not appropriate. So, and then again, we use goal setting activities and provide resources for individuals to practice and learn in their learning all about debt. So there's some warning signs or things to watch for that could be troublesome when we're talking about debt. So who knows here, like think about it here. Do you know exactly how much you owe? I know I couldn't put an exact number, maybe something roundabout, but if most people don't know exactly what they owe. So 31% of Canadians don't know the interest rate, for example, on their credit card. 1 in 6 Canadians don't check their credit card statements each month, so they don't know what charges are being added or how much they're actually paying down on the principal amount versus paying on the interest rates or service fees. 1 in 5 Canadians say they feel that they're in over their heads when it comes to debt, and that's probably very true of most individuals. 1 in 5, I think, I don't know, that's probably, I mean, I guess it's a fact, but seems a little bit low to me. I feel like there's maybe more than that. And for every $1 in disposable income, Canadians owe 1.78 higher than the US. $1.78 higher than the US for every dollar of disposable income. So Canadians owe a lot more money than our neighbor in the States.
So the last module that we will cover in the training is consumerism. So we're going to talk about some advertising and sales techniques. And on the next slide, I'm going to show some of these techniques. We're also going to talk about frauds and scams. So just kind of different frauds and scams that are happening. I know we're used to like the CRA ones or different ones just saying it's legal matter. So those are some of the ones to watch out for. How to handle a consumer problem. And we're going to revisit the self-assessment.
Right. So Maddie, as Maddie mentioned, the self-assessment at the beginning of our sessions, I don't think it was covered in one of our slides. We do, and people will be asked to engage in a self-assessment about their knowledge of financial literacy and their own financial situation, just to get them thinking about that at the very beginning, so that as we move through the modules, they kind of have a sense of where they started through the education series. And then at the end, we revisit the self-assessment to just see how much people gained in knowledge around financial literacy and financial fitness. And there's also opportunities throughout to just think about how you might self-reflect on your situation and make plans for yourself. So that's a regular component of the 9 modules.
So, Okay, so we just put together some pictures of different sales techniques that have been shown in the past. So I know the top left one, the where's the bee, that's a very common one. It's an older one. But yes, it's the three ladies, it's Wendy's, right, Kylia? That did that? Yeah.
I think that's Wendy's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so sorry?
It might be A&W.
I thought it was Wendy's. Anyway, so the one on the right, the top right, is open a Coke, open happiness. So it's kind of talking like it's a lifestyle. It's using this the sales technique of like a lifestyle brand that you want to. It makes you want to buy the product, right? Sorry.
Drink Coke, you'll be happy.
Yeah, literally, drink a Coca-Cola and your life will be bright and happy, like the ad. So the bottom one, it is the Skippy peanut butter. But that's an older one as well, but you can see the peanut butter in the character, the Yogi Bear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Yogi Bear, and they're using the Yogi Bear to kind of as a sales technique. And then the last one is you need a cab. So does anyone know the number or the jingle that gets stuck in everyone's head?
If you're local to North Bay, you probably know the "You Need a Cab" radio announcement, which like the number gets stuck in your head. So that's a good example of consumerism and sales techniques. So these are all targeted advertisements towards people's wants and needs, and it really encourages people to buy when you may be buying based on an influence or to address a want versus saving your money and being more mindful about it for your needs.
Yeah.
That's an example of that consumerism and how audiences are quite regularly targeted actually in advertisements. So it's helping to make people more maybe a little bit more discerning when they hear different things and thinking about it more with more intent when they think about spending their money. So to register for this event, we want to invite people to, oh, am I stealing your thing? No, I'm not. Am I jumping ahead, Maddie?
No, you're good.
Or to register for our 6-week program, you can email bianbaaware@gmail.com. We'll be limiting our registration to about 10 participants max per each series of events. And we are planning on hosting them on Tuesdays, so just like today from 10:30 till 12, beginning next week, I think, April 20th. And each session will encourage interaction and an opportunity to learn through these examples that we've discussed a little bit. And we would hope that individuals attend the weekly sessions more with a little bit more commitment than just a drop-in scenario. And we will be able to provide the weekly materials that are required for the activity in advance. So that's how we will manage that when we're working from a remote world. And they'll be done through likely through Zoom, like we are hosting today. So you can also get a hold of our financial programming through contact@bianba.ca. And if you would like to reach out to myself or Maddie, these are our contact emails. So again, I'm the virtual support coordinator, and you can reach me at kyliah.bianba@gmail.com and Maddie s.bianba@gmail.com under her financial awareness coordination position. So that is where I will stop sharing the screen and also pause our recording to allow for questions.